Michael Reade on LMFM.
Now, some 30,000 girls who will start in first year of secondary school this year are to be offered the HPV vaccine, but there's a concern about the uptake of this vaccination programme, and Dr. Robert O'Connor, Head of Research with the Irish Cancer Society, joins us on the line to talk a little bit more about the implications of it, or not, as the case may be. Good morning to you, Robert, and thanks for joining us here this morning. There's been a lot of concern about this vaccine. The purpose of it is to prevent cervical cancer, but a lot of young girls are saying that they've been negatively impacted as a result of the vaccination itself.
Good morning, Michael. Thanks for having me on the show. No, actually, it isn't a lot of girls. More than 220,000 Irish girls have been vaccinated in the nearly 5-6 years of this programme. And a small number of parents claim that their daughters, who are presenting with a variety of conditions, have been injured by the vaccine. And these are conditions that have been known about since before vaccination, and that occur at the same rate in vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals. And the medical and scientific community are absolutely sure are not caused by the vaccine.
They say that there's in the region of 400 girls who've been affected this way.
Yes, actually the estimates are that there should be between 400 and 600 girls impacted at that age group by these conditions, but they are not caused by the vaccine. That's one thing we are very sure of. This is a unique opportunity for us to eradicate a form of cancer once and for all. Cervical cancer is a major problem in Ireland. Just to give you some numbers today, 20 more women will need hospital treatment for the precancerous form. That's 6,500 per year. Another woman will be diagnosed. There's nearly one woman a day diagnosed with cervical cancer, and nearly 2 women a week. That's 90 a year will die in 2016 from this disease. This is a fatal disease. It particularly impacts young women. Treatment can be very difficult, often involving loss of fertility, loss of the ability to have children. And really what we're looking at here is our desire to eradicate this form of cancer and help those girls not suffer from a variety of cancers, not just cervical cancer, because HPV causes a number of cancers. And the impact for most girls is simply a pain in the arm from a needle.
OK, but obviously there's concern as a result of this campaign, because I think it's a campaign that has come about as a result of these people coming together, telling similar stories. And when you hear stories like that, undoubtedly people start to question the vaccination itself and if they're putting themselves at risk.
Obviously, unfortunately, people do. Because of the large number of girls who get these vaccines, and parents will know that it's actually one of 3 vaccines that their kids will get at this time of the year. There is concern among parents, but the medical evidence is absolutely irrefutable at this stage. There is no association. Studies have looked at more than 80 million people globally who've had this vaccine. They looked at vaccinated, non-vaccinated, and they looked at the incidence and rates of these conditions before and after vaccination. None of them point any evidence whatsoever to this being the cause of their illness. In one of the conditions, for example, which your listeners may know of as ME or chronic fatigue syndrome, more than 12,000 Irish people have that condition. They get it at a variety of different ages. Girls, unfortunately, seem to get it more commonly than boys, but they get it at a variety of different ages. 250,000 people in the UK, 1 million people in the US. These conditions have existed and will continue to exist. They will occur whether if the child is unlikely or is unfortunate enough to get this condition, it will happen whether they get vaccinated or unvaccinated. This is a safe vaccine, and it's a vital part of protection against a preventable form of cancer that particularly impacts young women.
And is it just a coincidence that they're getting these conditions, that they're showing symptoms of these conditions shortly after being vaccinated?
Absolutely, and not all the cases are shortly after. Some of the children, I understand, are up to a year around the vaccination time. But unfortunately, these conditions, as I've said at the outset, these conditions have always happened. They will continue to happen, and they're happening at the same rate, whether children are vaccinated or unvaccinated. It is nothing associated with vaccination. Vaccination is safe. One has to be absolutely sympathetic for the children that are impacted. Boys and girls are impacted by these conditions. It's not just girls. and at the minute the national vaccination programme only vaccinates girls. So one has to be sympathetic for these girls and for their parents. It's a horrible turn of the dice to be impacted by these illnesses, but it is not associated, it is not caused by the vaccine. It is just a coincidence that these things happen sometimes in some children around the time of vaccination.
And would you ask these girls, or their parents probably more likely, to stop suggesting that it's as a result of the vaccination?
If we do the comparison, the prevention of cervical cancer means that girls will no longer have the risk of developing that disease and potentially dying from it. And that is really what we're asking parents to look at, to weigh up in their minds the risks of cervical cancer and other forms of cancer, head and neck cancer, esophageal cancer and anogenital cancers. Weigh up the risk of those, which can be fatal. Weigh up the risk of those versus the claims that have been made here. Talk to your GP, talk to a qualified medical professional, not listen to the material that's circulating on things like Facebook or that. Talk to a qualified professional to get proper guidance. All of the globally around the world, the European Medicines Agency, the Centres for Disease Control, the World Health Organization, all of these have studied this vaccine in the decade that it has been available, because it was first released in 2006. The first country to adopt it was Australia in 2007, and they are already reaping the benefits of this vaccine. They see huge impact in their population in terms of HPV infection, and Ireland needs to catch up with that.
Okay, and some of the biggest research ever carried out into vaccinations of this sort relate to this, and the medical consensus seems to be that it is perfectly safe and will help to reduce, if not eradicate, circumstances of cervical cancer. But you have this perception which becomes a reality in the minds of people who are looking at this stuff. And you talked about Facebook as a result of the fears that people have. The Irish Cancer Society has hosted a couple of public meetings which resulted in some pretty dramatic interactions between young girls who are suffering with health problems of different sorts, and indeed people there who were trying to talk up the benefits of this vaccination. Has that sort of had a negative impact on the campaign that you're involved in to encourage people to get vaccinated?
No, I think we got the facts out there. There's no question that there were a number of extremist anti-vaccine campaigners who joined the meeting, particularly in Galway. They made explicit threats. They claimed that the vaccine was made from the products of aborted fetuses and a variety of other completely nonsense things. They shouted down a 69-year-old elderly lady who was the world expert that had kindly agreed to come over and talk on this topic. Unfortunately, these things are circulating on Facebook, but as I said, people need to go and get qualified medical opinion. These are important decisions that have to be made. They should be spoken about with the GP, somebody qualified to understand the medical context of these vaccines, the risks in terms of cervical cancer, and give good guidance. A GP can give great guidance across the board on a variety of different medical topics, and they're probably the best person if people do have concerns. If they've followed some of the Facebook things and want to get more detail, they're probably best talking to a qualified medical professional.
Okay, and the schools now all returning, a lot of children already in school, others over the course of this week. When will this vaccination be offered to these young girls?
You'd need to talk to the HSE for the exact details. We're not involved in the programme. We're just getting the public's attention to this because of the anti-cancer potential. My understanding, though, is that parents will get consent letters for HPV vaccine and DTaP vaccine in the coming weeks. Most of the girls, and indeed boys, get DTaP. Most of them will be invited for vaccination within the next month or so, and then there'll be a follow-up vaccine in about 6 months.
Okay. Listen, thanks for joining us here this morning. That's Dr. Robert O'Connor, who's Head of Research with the Irish Cancer Society.
Michael at